NATO is preparing for a long and direct war against Russia, and the Third World War is just formally declared.
Well, they have shown us in a document, it was a concept treaty text in December 21. They sent us a text which basically said we had to go back to the pre-1997 situation. And that's what they're aiming for. That's their strategic objective.
But you don't believe that it's only about Ukraine?
No, it is about turning back to the old Soviet Union. Many nations in NATO thought for decades that we were owning the timelines. We were the ones that decided to go to Afghanistan, to go to Iraq. It was a decision from NATO, from the NATO nations. And so we owned the timelines. We were saying, when are we going, with how many troops, for how long, etc. Now, we are facing a threat, which is Russia, that is coming to us, uninvited, at a moment of their choosing. So we have to be much more ready. We have no time to prepare, because it is up to them when they come.
We are ready to a direct confrontation with Russia.
We are.
Are we ready for nuclear war? And do you believe in that possibility?
I think Vladimir Putin is not insane, so that's the good news. He has ideas that are not our ideas, but he's not insane. So he is still a rational person, and I think that is important with regard to the use of nuclear weapons. Well, I think it's extremely important that we all continue to agree on the fact that a nuclear war should not be fought and can never be won.
Last week, during a session at the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe in Strasbourg, the German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock stated that Germany and NATO forces are in a war with Russia.
And therefore, I've said already in the last days, yes, we have to do more to defend Ukraine. Yes, we have to do more also on tanks. But the most important and the crucial part is that we do it together, and that we do not do the blame game in Europe, because we are fighting a war against Russia and not against each other. Thank you.
Germany broke a long-held taboo when it agreed to donate tanks. Berlin pledged a company-sized force of Leopard 2 main battle tanks to Ukraine, announcing that it would allow other European countries to export their Leopard fleets to Kiev. The decision came after months of public hesitance, during which some within Chancellor Olaf Scholz's party condemned the idea of sending heavy armor to Ukraine as too risky and escalatory. Ukrainian leadership responded to the news by stepping up their demands, asking Germany and the US for fighter jets and long-range missiles, and some officials believe donating combat aircraft is also inevitable. Ukraine has over 1,000 tanks already. The few those the West is sending will take months to arrive and require trained soldiers. On the other hand, the Ukrainian army is exhausted after 150,000 Ukrainian soldiers killed and several hundred thousands wounded. NATO needs to make more than sending military equipment to save Ukraine from an early defeat. This war was made to last, to bankrupt Western nations, justifying the one-world government centralizing monetary policies in the Bank for International Settlements. And it's a matter of time before the Ukrainian war becomes a cyber war with tragic consequences for the world economy, needed to be destructed to build back better. Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Oleg Syromolotov said the UK has been modeling cyber attacks on Russia's critical infrastructure. The simulated hacks included energy facilities and would be conducted under NATO guidance. Russia was hit by unprecedented cyber attacks from abroad, with the majority of intrusions coming from the US and other NATO members, as well as Ukraine. Attempts to hack Russian government entities by foreign actors have increased by 2 to 3 times over the last year. According to Syromolotov, government services have been targeted the most. The foreign ministry has been repeatedly attacked. Overall, around 50,000 hacker attacks were repulsed last year.
In Le Figaro, in the pages of Le Figaro, we had Emmanuel Todd talk about global change going on. And the epicenter of that change, of course, is Ukraine. But he characterizes it as already we're in the Third World War, because I think a lot of us have been watching the commentary ever since February of last year that we could be going, we're on the edge of, we could, all this kind of stuff here. This anthropologist, if I'm not mistaken, he says we're already in it. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I know Emmanuel Todd, and he's mainly famous for having predicted the end of the Soviet Union in the 1980s on the basis of the falling demographics of the Soviet Union. Is it a third world war? Well, yes, there are some aspects in which it's a third world war. Obviously, as he says, it's, as we know, America against Russia. It's not Russia against Ukraine. Maybe he's right that it's America against Russia and China. There's an important aspect that he didn't mention, which, of course, is that there is more than one front, which is what would make it qualify as a world war. And the other front, of course, is Syria. That front has calmed down in recent months and years, but Syria was in a way the first front in this war, which is now, of course, being played out in Ukraine. Just as in the Second World War, there were earlier wars which are not normally counted as part of the Second World War, but which, when you look at it, probably were, let's say, early tremors, which indicated the earthquake to come. I'm thinking of the Spanish Civil War.
Right.
And there's a lot of similarity between the Ukraine War and the Spanish Civil War. Yeah. Of course, there wasn't an invasion of Spain by a foreign country, as there is in the case of Russia and Ukraine. But the Spanish Civil War is well known, of course, for the intervention practiced by outside powers, by the Nazis on the one hand and by the Soviet Union on the other. So the Spanish Civil War was a proxy war, much as we have in Ukraine. And of course, to some extent, it was a precursor to the Second World War. And so in that sense, I think he is right. The big difference, of course, is that we're in the nuclear age now. And that's why you can't really compare the 1930s to the present period, because the big powers, America, Russia, and China, and so on, know that there are very serious limits to how much they can go to war with each other. And that's why I think probably I would be less pessimistic than Emmanuel Todd. I wouldn't necessarily say that we're going to go towards a head-on conflict, but a proxy war, definitely.
The intention of modern Nazis is global governance and the total control of humanity with digital nanotechnologies. Although Russia and China dive right into this game, we don't know to what extent they are willing to cede their sovereignties to globalism. In the end, nuclear weapons exist, and the risk increases when threats to sovereignty overtake all limits. The world is going to a fatal outcome.